If you've ever tried to connect AI to Notion, you know it's not as simple as it looks, especially if you don't want to pay for Notion AI. So I went down the rabbit hole trying every possible workaround from ChatGPT connectors to make.com automations, but nothing really clicked until I tried Claude's MCP. So in this video, I'll walk you through the different ways you can use AI with Notion, including Notion AI, why I think Claude MCP is the best one right now, and how to set it up for yourself. So if you're new to the channel, my name is Matt Paiva. I build AI solutions for businesses, especially on the sales and marketing side of things. And I actually came across this issue when I was trying to automate the process of capturing ideas into my second brain of content creation in Notion. And I just looked at a few different options and I realized that Claude MCP's approach is actually the best one as of right now. So let's dive into why that's the case. So what was my problem initially? What did I want to get out of Notion and AI? I wanted to be able to access my second brain, or at least my content creation database, seamlessly. And not only I wanted to access it to be able to iterate on the ideas that I'm already working on, but I also wanted to be able to add ideas over there and edit the ones that are currently there as well. Now, I saw Notion AI as a really feasible approach of doing this because obviously it's already integrated into Notion, but it is $25 a month if I'm not mistaken. Opening up the pricing page for Notion, we can see that the business plan over here is the plan that covers most of the things that you can do with Notion AI. It's $24 a month if you're not paying it yearly. If you're paying it yearly, it's 20 bucks a month. But to be honest, I just didn't want to add another subscription to all of the other subscriptions I'm already paying for. I feel like we're definitely in this subscription epidemic, or whatever you want to call it. And it gets really annoying, right? Like there's always a new AI tool and it's usually charging you on a subscription basis. So you have to keep adding these new things to have functionalities to your day-to-day. And I just personally didn't want to do it. I started with looking at make.com automations. I considered ChatGPT connectors, and I finally landed on Claude's MCP. So let me walk you guys through those three different approaches and tell you exactly why I preferred Claude MCP at the end of the day over these other two. First up, we have ChatGPT connectors, or ChatGPT overall. You can go over here to the settings page and click on connectors, and you'll see that you are able to connect Notion using ChatGPT connectors over here. But ChatGPT connectors have a big problem. And the big problem is that you need to use the deep research tool in order to actually use these connectors. And it just creates such a huge blocker to the things that you are able to do on a day-to-day basis. And I actually made an entire video going deep into why ChatGPT connectors will disappoint you, and you can go watch it right over there. But the long story short is that it uses the deep research tool, and the deep research tool just takes too long to run and also is likely to give you incorrect responses when it comes to simple day-to-day questions. So even though I had a feeling that it wasn't going to work properly, I connected ChatGPT connectors over here to Notion anyways, and I attempted to create a page. And this is the exact conversation that I had with ChatGPT, or the prompts that I used in order to create this. I selected the deep research tool, connected it to Notion, and then I said, hey, can you create a page in my YouTube creation database called Newsletter 2? And then it asked me a couple follow-up questions like, what do you want in this page? I provided all the information that I want, and it clarified what I was talking about and started running the deep research tool. And here, it took 10 minutes. It took 10 minutes, use 7 different sources. And when I opened Notion, my page was just not there. It just didn't work, which is like really weird because here it says like we have successfully created a new page titled Newsletter 2 in the YouTube Creation Notion database. And I was like, that's just like, it clearly is just not working. And like here is kind of the example that I'm trying to show you guys. I created this first one using Claude, and I'm going to show you that chat in a bit, but it was supposed to appear over here. If I'm creating the Newsletter 2, which would be like just doing this, it would include this piece of information. It would include the Instagram portion, TikTok, YouTube Shorts. The status should be editing, and the LinkedIn status should be editing as well. Or LinkedIn status should be anything because there's no editing. Oh, sorry, it's here. Anyways, long story short, it just didn't create this page, which I'm creating right now. And I wanted it to be able to create it through ChatGPT because a lot of the times I'm developing these ideas for content using ChatGPT. Like I have a thought and I'm like, okay, how do I make this thought more valuable? How do I actually package this into a YouTube video or maybe a short form piece of content? And I use AI a lot to develop these ideas. It's more like a have it ask me questions and then we'll structure this idea together. But at the end of that process, I would love for it to be able to just add all of those thoughts into a page and have it in my database, so I can just look at it and be like, okay, what's coming out tomorrow on YouTube Shorts? What's coming out a week from now on my YouTube long form videos. And long story short, this ChatGPT connectors approach didn't work. But even though the ChatGPT connectors approach didn't work, there is one thing that you could do to actually access Notion's content through ChatGPT, and it's using this working with apps feature. So if you have something already opened over here, like this page over here is some notes that I had on a course that I took about machine learning for business. And as soon as I have this page open and I move it back to ChatGPT, this option pops up over here, the Work with Notion tab. And if I click on it, it will just load this information as if I was just copying literally everything that is in this page and pasting it into my prompt, right? So for example, I could ask, what are neural networks according to my notes? And it would be able to like access my Notion page and actually respond to what I have. The thing is, when you're using it like this, you can't edit anything or add anything. You would have to have a setup where you have both pages open, just like I'm having it right now, and then it would be able to work a little bit better. Is it ideal? No, but does it work? Yes. It's still missing that important component of like, after I draft my idea or after I develop a thought here, I want to be able to store it somewhere so I can actually use Notion as my second brain for certain things instead of just reading it back to me, whatever I have in my notes. So that part, it just doesn't do the job the way it's supposed to. Now, one thing that I prefer ChatGPT over other platforms is the ability to just use this voice to text function. I use this all the time to contextualize my prompts or to develop these ideas as I'm saying. I just start talking and then developing that idea using this voice to text feature, as well as using just the conversation feature over here. So it opens just like that, and it has access to everything that I'm looking at as well, which is really nice. That's like awesome. You can use ChatGPT for that, and you cannot do that in Claude, at least not as of right now. They have these two features, but somehow they're not available in the Claude desktop app, or at least I haven't found out how to actually connect it to the Claude desktop app. But yeah, at the end of the day, ChatGPT fell short here. It didn't do everything that I needed it to do, which was to access my contents of Notion and also add or edit these contents instead of just having like this dual like split screen thing at any given moment, especially because a lot of the times I'm on my phone developing these ideas. So my AI tools, ChatGPT in the scenario, is usually my intermediary step between having an idea, having an eureka moment, and storing it in Notion. So I want to be able to like do that. But before we go over to Claude, I considered building make.com automations. And that's also because I'm already paying for make.com and I know how to build things in make.com really well. Not to mention that you have a bunch of templates over here that include Notion. For example, if I just search for Notion in the templates, you will see that there's a lot of different things that we can do, even ones that include ChatGPT as like an intermediary step, or the create a completion ChatGPT module as an intermediary step. The problem with this approach though is that I need to create a scenario for every single one of the things that I want to do in Notion. So if I want to be able to access the content of a database and then pull the information from a specific page in that database, I need to build that exactly how I'm saying it. If I want to add a thing to a database, I need to build it exactly as I'm saying it. So it's very limited, and it can be very clunky to just build a set of automations to do one thing in Notion, or to be able to connect Notion to AI this way. This would make a lot more sense if I just needed it to do one thing. If I just wanted to store an idea from a voice note, if I want to like record a voice note, send it through Slack, and then store that idea in Notion, sure, you can go ahead and build it with make.com. It's very straightforward, in fact. Now, the whole problem here is that it is very clunky, and I would be able to create these different automations and create a folder with a set of like 10 different automations that do 10 different things, but I would literally need to build 10 different automations and connect each one to the exact database and rely on make.com running it properly every single time that I call upon that tool. So overall, it felt very clunky, and I know that I would need to build it exactly how it's supposed to work. Like, it's very structured, the automation in make.com, and I wouldn't have the flexibility of being able, for example, to pull information from a specific page in Notion and then edit that exact page in a specific, like, very seamless way. I would need to build the automation that pulls the information, build another automation that edits the information, another one that captures an idea, and then so on and so forth. It was going to be a lot of work. So because of that, I was like, okay, let's look at another alternative. And I have started paying for Claude as of recently. And I also know that the Notion team developed their MCP server for Claude and for ChatGPT because they have the ChatGPT connector for Notion in place. So I went over to Claude and I started using it. And to be honest, guys, it worked really well. It was able to pull the information that I was looking for, do it very quickly, which is the main difference between Claude and ChatGPT as of right now, and also add the information really quickly and accurately using all the tools that it had in place. Now, I was a little bit worried in the first place because when I started using Claude, I went to Claude to see if I could connect my Gmail and my Google Calendar onto Claude and see what I could do with it, right? There's an entire video in this channel about how to connect Gmail to ChatGPT because that's something that I was trying to do for the longest time. And when I was actually able to connect Gmail and Google Calendar to Claude, I was like, this is great. It's responding so much faster than ChatGPT. I didn't have to go create a workaround through Relevance AI to connect to it. But it just didn't do what I needed it to do, which was draft emails and add events to my calendar. Now, the reason why that happens is because the Google team put together the MCP server and it just doesn't allow you to add events or to create a draft for an email. It allows you to search for information in your Gmail inbox. It allows you to find the events that you have for a specific day, for example, on Google Calendar, but it doesn't allow you to add or allow you to draft a different email, which is kind of annoying and kind of the use case that I was looking for. So I was a little bit skeptical at first with Claude to see what kind of actions I would be able to do using the Notion MCP server, and it was actually really surprising. I was able to do everything that I was looking to do. Here is a quick example of the thing that I tried. I used the voice tool because I was trying to see how I could use the voice tool during the app, and I asked Claude if it could find the content that I'm supposed to post on July 28th today. So it looked for my database. It did a couple searches until it found something, and it found the content piece that I was talking about, which is AI video worries me. Published date, exactly what I was looking for, the status, the LinkedIn status, the platform, and even fetched a little bit more details about it. So after that, I prompted it to create the newsletter 1 page, and it went ahead and created the newsletter 1. I just provided a little bit of information by prompting it with voice, saying exactly what I wanted, and it just went ahead and created it like I showed you guys over here. This was not me who created it. This was Claude. Now, the big drawback of Notion is the ability of using voice. Like I said before, when I started looking into this was to be able to use AI as my intermediary between having an idea and then developing that idea and adding it into Notion. And I use voice a lot to do that. But as you guys can see, we don't have the voice feature over here in Claude. We do it on our phones. And if I open it over here, I open Claude, and I just like open up a new chat or whatever, we have those two buttons at the very bottom over here where I can start a voice chat and interact with Claude with voice and just prompt it to create new things in my Notion database, prompt it to fetch new things from the Notion database, and so on and so forth. But the fact that this simple feature is not available on my desktop, or at least on the desktop app or the web version of Claude, just like kind of disappointed me a little bit. Also, in comparison to ChatGPT, the voice tool with Claude just does not work that well. Like every time that you speak with Claude over here, you will start a conversation, it will start listening to you, and then you actually need to click to send that piece of information and it to listen to you and reply to you when you're doing the voice thing. So long story short, even though Claude didn't have the voice feature over here on the computer, which would be kind of ideal to have it both on my phone and my computer, it was still able to perform the best in comparison to the other approaches that I looked for. And at the end of the day, since I'm using this to capture ideas on the go, I will be using my phone a lot more than I will be using my like desktop or my web app. So I didn't have much of a problem with that. So I went ahead and I added a little widget over here for Claude. You guys can see that there's the ChatGPT one and then there's Claude. And if I just want to like do something or add an idea on the go, I can just go straight from my homepage to Claude, and then I have the information open and I can start talking it via voice. And that's just like a very simple shortcut that made this entire process a little bit easier. And connecting my Notion to Claude was super simple. I just had to go over here and select connect and then just like authorize my account. If I wanted to add any other connectors, I can see that they have a bunch of other ones in place, and I'll definitely be like experimenting with these a little bit to see what I can get out of it. So far, I'm really happy with the Notion connection that is available here in Claude. So as you guys can see, this MCP server allows us to do all of these different types of actions. We can search for a specific page. We can fetch the contents of a specific page. The ones that I'm more interested in are the create pages and update pages one, because these ones are going to be the ones that I'm going to be accessing the most as well as the search one. I have noticed a small problem with the search option over here, or the search action, which is the search action does semantic searches, meaning that if I have a database item, and let's take this example over here of the newsletter 2, it won't be able to actually search and filter by these ones. Even though it did accurately once over here when I was attempting this, it won't be able, I can't actually just ask Claude to look for all of the ideas that I have for the platform Instagram, you know, and that's kind of like something that annoyed me a little bit because I expected it to be able to do it. Nonetheless, compared to the other tools and the other features that we looked at, this is still performing better than the other ones. And the way I'm going to supercharge this workflow, or at least give Claude a little bit more power over Notion, is by creating a personal project over here with pieces of information that I usually include in my prompt when I'm creating these ideas for content, which include ideas on how to write the titles, what kind of titles I'm looking for, some examples, as well as, and here it's going to be really interesting, I'm going to include the YouTube creation database ID to prevent Claude from doing a search every single time trying to find the database that it needs. And I'm also going to include the properties for each one of these pages in that database, which in my scenario are these properties over here. I have the platform, the publish date, the single select portion, which I rarely use, but I included here for the sake of a specific view, which just filters between short and long. And then I have two different statuses over here, one for YouTube and another one for LinkedIn, which I kind of use occasionally when I'm putting this together. And by including these two pieces of information, I'm going to save time in actually doing these actions, as well as reducing the amount of actions that it takes to create a specific thing here in the Notion database. Because every time that you ask Claude to create something in the Notion database, it actually searches for that database first so it can identify the database ID, and then it creates the page within the database ID. I actually just realized that I added that entire description under the description instead of the project instructions, but now everything is in the right place and I can see that Notion is connected. So let's try creating an example. Okay, awesome. So let's run with this example in the project over here. Whenever I have an idea, I usually write it down or I record a voice note, like I said throughout the video. In this scenario here, I'm just pretending like I'm going to make a video about context engineering, which is a relatively new topic in the AI world and everybody's talking about it. There's always new things with AI that people are talking about it at any given moment. I might actually go ahead and do this video, but I just prompted very simply that I wanted to make a video about context engineering, and then I asked it to create a little bit more context around this video, saying that I wanted to talk to marketing people over here and to create a little bit of the browse titles as well as the search titles for this video. So even looking at this, I can see that this title is actually pretty cool. The $100,000 marketing AI skill marketers don't know about. That's a pretty cool one. Or this other one that's called Why Smart Marketers Are Ditching Prompt Packs. This is another really good one. And here I just asked also to create two versions of a hook, because these are usually the main elements that I have before moving on with the recording of a video, before I get to the point where I'm ready to record that video. So here I'm going to ask, can you add all of this info to my Notion database? I want to post this video on August 15th, and I'm actually going to change the wording here. Instead of saying, can you add all of this info to my Notion database, I'll just ask it to create a page. Can you create a page with all of this info in my Notion database, YouTube creation? And as expected, we have Claude over here interacting with Notion, and whenever it is creating a page, it asks us to allow this page to be created. I actually selected the allow once the first time I ran this, but I just want to click on always allow. I just wanted to show this page over here for you guys. This just shows that we are able to allow or decline any actions that Claude is performing in our third-party applications. So here I'll select always allow and see what happens. Awesome. So it says that it created the page over here on my Notion database, and I'll wait until it finishes writing this answer so we can open the Notion database and check if it's actually there. Oh, it even includes the link to the Notion database over here. Maybe I can click over here and click on open link. And there we go. I have all the information that I need. Context engineering for marketing professionals with the YouTube long platform. The published data was actually empty, even though we prompted it to include a published date. Regardless though, we do have a lot of the information that was mentioned in that chat that we had with Claude, which is exactly what I was looking for. It has even more information than I needed, but this is kind of a matter of prompting Claude to just include the pieces of information that you want. For example, the video concept, and then like the things that I would include for sure would be the video concept, the browse titles. I always include the browse titles, the search titles, the hook options, and then everything else is kind of just write it myself. That's because one, I don't want AI to be creating all my content for me, and two, I actually like to have these pages with minimum text as possible, so I can come over here and actually talk about what I really want to talk about. So in a nutshell, if you want a little bit more flexibility and you don't want to pay for another subscription that you will barely use, which in this case would be Notion AI, I would definitely recommend taking full advantage of Claude MCP and the connection that they have with Notion in order to do this. Like I said before, it was the best one compared to creating make.com automations for each one of the actions that you're trying to perform and comparing it to ChatGPT connectors, which, like I said before, have the big problem of the deep research tool. And if you want to learn how to use AI in your marketing and sales departments, feel free to book a call with me down below. I am running 3 free AI audits every single month. And in those AI audits, you get a full AI use case portfolio personalized for your needs, an AI 6 months implementation roadmap, and an MVP of the first automation that you should tackle. So with all that being said, if you don't feel like that's something that you want, you can also get access to all of my free AI templates completely for free. First link in the description down below. And with that, I'll leave you until the next one. Bye-bye.